Hey there, welcome back to C# and Sensors. My name is Chris, and today we're going to look at a fundamental component, the potentiometer. Let's go wire this up. Potentiometers need 3 wires. We've got our ground, our power, and then our signal. This is an analog input. Now it's important to note on this, while I'm using a Raspberry Pi Zero here, Raspberry Pis do not have analog inputs. So this actually goes to an A to D controller, which is back behind this display on the Yoshi Pi. And then that comes in via the SPI bus over to here. So you can't do this directly with a Raspberry Pi. You can with anything else that has an ADC. So a Meadow F7 would work, a BeagleBone Black would work. But if you want to use a Raspberry Pi, you will need an ADC on this. In this case, I'm using an MCP3004. We take these 3 wires and we're going to connect it up to this potentiometer. You can see this is a 10K potentiometer, and that'll be important when we create it in software. But for hardware, we can just plug this in. We have our ground here, our power coming in here, and then this is our signal out. Basically, a potentiometer is just, it acts like 2 resistors. It's basically a voltage divider that's going to take this input voltage and divide it down by the amount that we have this turned. So the potentiometer, I can turn it this direction, it comes to a stop, and I can turn it this direction, and it comes to a stop. So let's go look at what this looks like in code. As always, we're going to start with an IoT application. We're going to call this a potentiometer sample, and that creates our app. For the potentiometer, we need to add a reference to the Meadow Foundation library. Then over here in our application, we can define the sensor. We can create the sensor. And here we're going to tell it which input port we had. So we had this connected to A00. And then it wants to know the max resistance of this sensor. And we saw that this was a 10,000 ohm. We can either pull the sensor or use an event handler. So let's use an event handler. Here in the changed event, we're going to set the label to 2 things. We're going to output the direct resistance in ohms, but the potentiometer also has this get current position, which will return a 0 to 100, so a kind of a percentage of the full range of the sweep. It's a little bit more convenient for most applications to just say, if I'm halfway there, it's 50, rather than worrying about the exact resistance of it. We don't need run, since we're doing everything event-based. So now let's build this and deploy it to our device. The potentiometer right now is about halfway. And you can see it says it's at 53. If I turn it all the way to the left, it goes down to 0. All the way to the right, goes up to 99%. So not quite 100. And we have a full sweep in between here. There you go. That's how easy it is to use a potentiometer. Less than 50 lines of code and your application's up and running. Thanks for watching.